This is a story about the time I almost died when home alone. Back then, I was just a 10-year-old kid in a family of 5. Life was pretty standard for me. Mostly of my time I spent playing video games in my room. It was my own little world. One Friday night, while I was deep into my Star Wars game, everything changed. I heard my mom freaking out. She was crying on the phone. It was scary, so I rushed out to see what was up. Turns out my brother had been hit by a car. It was bad but not life-threatening. My parents had to rush to the hospital, leaving me home alone. I was worried, sure, but staying home felt better than seeing my brother hurt. Before leaving, my dad tried to calm my mom down, saying my brother would be okay. That made me feel a bit better, so I decided to continue playing my game, trying to distract myself. Hours later, it was past midnight. I was half asleep in bed when I heard the front door open. I thought it was my parents coming back, but there was an eerie silence that followed. I tiptoed to the banister, overlooking the living room. The darkness down there was unsettling, and then I saw them, 3 tall figures standing in the middle of the room. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I was scared shitless. I knew I had to do something, anything. But yeah, what could a 10-year-old kid do against 3 strangers in his house? I tiptoed to my room, the silence around me feeling heavier with each step. As I eased my bedroom door closed, the soft click of the latch sounded like a thunderclap in the silence. I held my breath, hoping they hadn't heard it, but deep down, I knew they had. I could almost sense their ears perking up, their heads turning in my direction. Then I heard the soft footsteps approaching my room. My heart raced even faster. This was it, and I couldn't even say farewell to my family, I thought to myself. I scrambled into the closet, pushing past the hanging clothes, squeezing myself into the farthest corner behind the boxes. I could hear the muffled sounds of the intruders searching my room. Drawers were pulled open, things shuffled around. I tried to make myself as small as possible, wishing I could disappear into the wall. Then the footsteps came closer, right up to the closet. He stood still for a moment, a presence just beyond the thin door. I was holding my breath. The closet door began to open. A sliver of light was cutting through the darkness, growing wider and revealing the figure on the other side. At that moment, time slowed down. I held my breath, my eyes squeezed shut, not daring to make a sound. The intruder's presence filled the doorway. Every second he stood there felt like an eternity. I was sure he would find me, drag me out, and kill me. But then, miraculously, the door slowly closed again. The footsteps were fading away. For a long moment, I didn't dare to move. I couldn't believe my luck. I was still in danger, but for now I was safe. I stayed hidden until I heard my parents' voices hours later. They came home to find the front door wide open and the house robbed. That night changed everything. It went from a normal Friday to the most terrifying night of my life. I was lucky to be alive. The thought that the intruder might have seen me hiding and chose to leave me alone haunted me for a long time. Looking back, I realized how close I came to a potentially deadly encounter. It taught me to be more cautious, more aware of my surroundings. That experience, as frightening as it was, made me grow up a little faster. When I was around 14, my mom and dad took off for the weekend, leaving me solo at home. I'm 17 now, so this was a few years back. I was stoked to have the place to myself. It's kind of cool, you know, having your own space. My folks are great and all, but I was craving some me time. Little did I know, that weekend was about to turn into one of the most hair-raising experiences of my life. It kicked off on a Friday afternoon. My parents had already hit the road while I was still at school. So, when I got back home, I headed straight to my room and dived into my Xbox, chatting away with friends online. After a bit, I decided to order some pizza, the go-to move for any home-alone teenager. The night was pretty chill at first, just me, my game, and the cheesy goodness of pizza. It was around 9 p.m. when things started to feel Off. You know that weird sensation, like you're not alone? Yeah, that crept up on me. I paused my game and listened. The house was dead silent except for the faint ticking of the living room clock. It's nothing, I told myself, trying to shake off the unease. But then there was this sound, a faint scraping like something dragging across the wooden floor downstairs. My heart started racing. It's just the house settling, I thought. But who was I kidding? I had never heard that sound before. I muted the TV, straining my ears. Silence. Then there it was again, closer this time. I grabbed my phone, thinking about calling my parents, but what would I say? Hey, I'm freaking out over some weird noise? I didn't want to worry them over what was probably nothing, so I put the phone down and decided to investigate. Big mistake. As I crept down the stairs, the noise stopped. The whole house felt colder, darker. When I reached the bottom, I peered into the living room. Nothing out of place. Just then, a loud bang came from the kitchen. I froze. Every muscle tensed, every sense heightened. Okay, this is real, I thought, my mind racing with possibilities. I slowly edged toward the kitchen, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. The light switch flicked under my trembling fingers, flooding the kitchen with light. It was empty, but a drawer was wide open, its contents slightly askew. That was not how I left it. My mind was screaming to run, to lock myself in my room and call for help, but there was this other part of me, this stubborn, curious part that needed to know. I grabbed a kitchen knife, not sure if it made me feel safer or more scared. Then a soft creak from the front door. It sounded like a footstep. That was it, the moment when fear overtook curiosity. I bolted, rushing back up the stairs, my breaths coming in short, sharp gasps. I slammed my bedroom door shut and locked it. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely dial my parents' number. The phone rang once, twice. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from downstairs, followed by a muffled curse. Someone was in the house. My heart was in my throat as I whispered into the phone, "Mom? Dad, someone's here in the house." My mom's voice crackled through the phone, laced with worry and confusion. "What? Are you sure? Hide and call the police. We're coming back right now." I was about to reply when I heard it. Footsteps slow and heavy, climbing the stairs. My heart raced. I whispered, "I gotta go," and hung up. The room felt like a trap now. I scanned for a hiding spot, settling on the closet. I slipped inside, pushing clothes aside to make room, my breath shallow and quiet. The footsteps reached the top of the stairs. I could hear them moving down the hallway, pausing, then continuing. Each step felt like an eternity. I held the knife tightly, the cold metal a small comfort. The footsteps stopped right outside my door. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure whoever was out there could hear it. Then a faint scratching at the door, like someone running a finger over the wood. My grip on the knife tightened. The doorknob rattled gently, then more forcefully. I closed my eyes, trying to steady my breathing. The door creaked open and I could hear someone stepping inside the room. I stayed perfectly still, barely daring to breathe. The intruder moved around the room, rummaging through my stuff. I could hear them getting closer to the closet. I was cornered, trapped, with nowhere to run. The closet door started to open. I braced myself, clutching the knife, ready to defend myself. But then, a voice, not menacing, but confused. "What the?" Relief flooded through me, followed quickly by frustration. "Jake? What the hell, man? You scared me half to death." He flicked on the light, looking equally relieved and guilty. "Sorry, I didn't mean to freak you out. I came home early from my trip. I thought you heard me come in. Why didn't you say anything?" I emerged from the closet, still shaking. "I thought you were an intruder. Why were you creeping around?" He shrugged, a sheepish grin on his face. "I wanted to surprise you. Guess I did, huh?" We both laughed, the tension melting away. It was a relief to realize the danger was just a misunderstanding. But the fear I felt, that was real. It was a reminder of how quickly things can change. how suddenly you can find yourself in a situation you're not prepared for. As we sat down and talked, I couldn't shake the feeling of what might have been. It was a night I wouldn't forget anytime soon, a mix of relief, laughter, and a lingering sense of what if. I live alone in an apartment close to a bustling downtown. Usually the area is lively but safe. However, a few months back, something unnerving happened to me. After a tiring day at work, I reached my fourth-floor apartment, longing for a relaxing evening. As usual, I locked the door upon entering, headed for a refreshing shower, and planned to slip into something comfortable before bed. Shortly after entering, an unusual sound grabbed my attention. The doorknob was turning as if someone was attempting to enter. Surprised and somewhat alarmed, I cautiously approached the door. I peered through the peephole but saw no one in the hallway. It was eerily empty. Dismissing it as a potential mistake, I tried to relax and proceeded with my evening routine. 20 minutes later, while lying in bed and browsing through my phone in the tranquility of my dark room, the unsettling incident repeated. This time, the doorknob was being turned multiple times, more insistently. The persistent rattling signaled that someone was deliberately trying to enter my apartment. With my heart pounding, I silently got up from the bed and tiptoed back to the door. Gazing through the peephole once again, I saw a man standing outside. His disheveled appearance and sketchy demeanor immediately struck me as suspicious. He tried the door again, glanced around the corridor, and then focused his unsettling attention back on my door. Feeling a surge of panic, I swiftly retreated from the door, unwilling to confront the stranger. I hoped he would just leave on his own. Time seemed to slow down as I anxiously waited for the man to leave. He lingered in the hallway for what felt like an eternity. I was torn between the desire for safety and the need to ensure he was really leaving. Finally, the man appeared to give up. He turned and started to walk down the hallway. Relieved yet still apprehensive, I cautiously opened my door to verify his departure. As I stepped out slightly, I caught sight of him at the far end of the hallway. Suddenly, he stopped, turned around, and fixed his gaze on me. My heart skipped a beat as he began sprinting toward me. I hastily retreated into my apartment, slamming and locking the door just in time to prevent his entry. The man reached my door a second later, tried opening it, and then pounded on it vigorously. Feeling a mix of fear and defiance, I yelled through the door, demanding to know his intentions. He offered no response, just continued his ominous presence outside my door. In a moment of desperation, I announced that I was calling the police. Hearing this, he finally turned away and disappeared down the corridor. For the next hour, I remained on edge, periodically checking through the peephole to ensure he had not returned. Eventually, feeling certain of my safety, I went back to bed, though sleep was difficult to come by. The incident left me perpetually cautious, especially when returning home, a stark reminder of the fragility of personal security in even the most familiar of places.